Hey everybody, I'm Sean Robinson.
I'm Carson Grubaugh. Welcome to Living the Line.
Carson, good to see you, man.
Yeah. Well, just the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Uh, you probably are grateful that the camera angle is such on this video that my guns are not on full display. Uh,
Yeah, that you're not. I've
uh,
been, I've been working on mine so they're comparable. That way we can arm wrestle at Mocha.
oh hell yeah! Should we video that? Should we have like a round robin tournament? Nick Patera isn't going to be there, is he?
I don't know. I hope not. I feel like
Because
Eric could take me out pretty good.
you might that might be the case, yeah. If Nick was there, he might be able to just arm wrestle the entire team
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Well,
um,
we've already threatened a fight with, I forget who we threatened. Oh,
Algofa.
Algofa. Yeah, MMA fight with Algofa.
Yeah,
So come to Mocha, everybody. We're gonna be there for both days, and that's gonna be. I'm really looking forward to that. And we've got a big chunk of the Living the Line crew.
yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
amazing, and we're going to be right one table away from our friend Tom Kaczynski at Uncivilized, who's going to have a lot of his authors over there as well. One table away, so we're going to be the rowdy corner.
Yeah, it's gonna be the awesome corner over there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope people can come out to that.
Yeah,
Um, Free sketches in your book from me.
excellent, excellent. I'm glad to hear it. I hear tell there's going to be a lot of that going around. Today we're going to be looking at a book that right before my self-imposed exile from reading comics that lasted for a really long time, I remember that this book was really, really making waves, and I actually didn't even pick it up at the time, but thanks to your prompting, I picked it up now. So, where did you first encounter Blacksad?
It was something that I had like heard about here and there as well, but didn't know what it was. And my friend Levi, shout out to Levi, hope you're watching this video. He kept being on my ass about it, like, hey, you need to check out this book. And he started showing it to me, and I was like, this is anthropomorph bullshit, like this is some weird furry thing. And I had just watched the movie, that awful Disney movie. It's like the philosophically most broken movie they've ever made. Um, Forgetting what it's called now. I have a note in the book, but it's the one with all the anthropomorph and the little bunny that becomes a police officer.
I've never
It's
seen it.
it's an animated movie. I got to know. I'm blanking on what it's
Hmm.
called, but uh, so I was like really resistant to reading this because I was like, I don't know, man, it sounds stupid. And he's like, dude, just check out the art. And I went and looked at the art and was like, holy shit, okay, this looks amazing. And Zootopia, that's what the movie's called.
Zootopia, yes, I've never seen it.
Zootopia. Well, don't. It ruined a generation of kids, I'm sure. Uh, the mouse can be an elephant if it wants to. No, that doesn't work, honey. Um, that gives you a flavor of the movie.
It does. That's very
But
interesting.
anyways, so I on Levi's recommendation, I looked at Blacksad online and just saw some of the art and was like, oh my God, this, yeah, for sure, I have to look at this. So that, yeah, I've been a fan ever since because the art is just absolutely fantastic. It's illustrated by Juanjo Guardino, and that dude is a savage.
Yeah, unbelievable. So maybe we should just start the flip through so we can start talking about the art itself. So
So
it's interesting. My first impression of this was skewed a little bit by having seen what I would consider to be a pen and ink equivalent of this, although not as skilled. I mean, obviously, this is like an unbelievably skilled, craftsman working. But have you ever read Hepcats by Martin Wagner?
yeah,
Oh, okay. I mean, I think that the conceit is similar in that you essentially have animals cast for their perceived characteristics. So you can
yeah.
imagine somebody writing this story and saying, okay, I need my hard-boiled, reluctant detective. What animal might fit the bill for this particular character or set of characteristics that I have? Which is actually kind of interesting. I mean, I think it's a very interesting technique, and it lends a different kind of flavor to the story. Uh, but I also think that probably it had this book come out during the sort of like racial reckoning period where every single thing was about race at all times. I actually don't know if they would have made some of the same choices.
Well, that's what's funny is that Zootopia movie is at the peak of that, and it is that like that's what that movie is saturated in, and it makes every exact. I almost think that movie was slightly based on this book. Like it
Interesting.
makes every single move that you would expect. Like there's the little tiny fragile female bunny who wants to be a police officer, and she goes into the room full of like hippos and rhinos and stuff like that, and they're like, well, you're not strong enough, you're not tough enough, and the whole movie's about her proving herself. But they do all of the same kind of, yeah, like you're gonna pick the gigantic ape guy here to be
Right.
the boxer, right? And
Right.
that movie, which was 100% in that political philosophy, made all the same moves as this. So
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Or the blues artist later on, the blues singer who is the orangutan. You know, he's got the
yeah.
saggy jowled, like sad orangutan features. But so as you can see just from the flip through here, I mean, the art is absolutely gorgeous, and it's interesting coming off of our interview with Jose Villarrubia,
hmm
which hopefully has aired already, or maybe it hasn't, but where
But
I
get
sort
hype.
yeah, get hype for our interview with Jose Villarrubia. I kind of made a assertion during the talk with him that there were different divisions you could assign to coloring strategies, essentially,
hmm
and this takes sort of two of them and merges them in a really extreme kind of way. One of those categories that I mentioned in the talk with him is what I would call scenic color, where you're essentially tipping the reader off of the location that you're at with the palette that you're using.
hmm
And then the other one would be really use of atmospheric color, where you're letting there's very little local color as object name, and like look at this guy's like red shirt is obviously like a really muted red because of the environmental
Yeah.
color. So essentially, like this guy is such a high level painter that he can integrate those two needs simultaneously, where he's presenting the atmosphere of the location, but the atmosphere is so heavy that it provides you with a key in your mind as you're reading of the place that you're at, and you can easily see the scenic changes just by looking at the palette changes.
Yeah. Like way brighter there. There's way warmer scenes, way cooler scenes, but it all stays within a very muted, desaturated kind of naturalistic feeling palette. It never gets like
Mm-hmm.
it's never psychedelic. And it's that combined with his ridiculous cartooning abilities, right?
Right.
And then also I'll point out a lot of the stuff that I was fascinated by was his also ridiculous storytelling capabilities. But here's a
Mm-hmm.
scene where we move into a much warmer, right? A much warmer cue. But it still remains earth tone. So I think that's when I looked at it, just his cartooning, his storytelling, his use of color, and then the fact that he takes no shortcuts
Right.
like anywhere is
Yeah.
really stunning. And I think that anthropomorphization that you're talking about, where he highlights the character, that's like a long tradition in animation where you pick the character that, like, if you were going to draw someone as a cartoon and then push those features further and then look for the animal that most represents that kind
Mm-hmm.
of vibe, the physiognomy of it all, like that's always been part of animation, right? For a long time, you have the guy that looks like the walrus, you have the snake, you have the
Right.
weasel, uh, but he's taking that to such a refined degree. Here's the blues guy that you're
Right.
talking about. But there's so much like pathos just in that one drawing because of, and I don't, he doesn't even really distort the forms in a terribly animated way in a lot of the image. Like this is a pretty just, he looks like an orangutan. The pig's not terribly cartooned, I mean enough, but
Yeah, and I was kind of watching that as I was looking at it, like what is he telegraphing? So like Blacksad, the main character, has probably more mobile a brow than a real you know, a real example of his species would.
Yeah,
And his eyes are obviously larger, and you know,
more
more
expressive.
exactly more mobile. But the brow, especially, like he uses the brow as if it was the eyebrow of a person. Whereas I don't know if that same kind of mobility exists on a what, what is he? He's a, I mean, he's a Is he a panther? I mean, is he what's the
He's just
actual
a
species?
black cat, I think. I'm not
Okay,
sure I think he's just supposed to be like a street cat
okay,
because he's got the little white mouth, you know. I
right,
think he's just a cat.
okay,
Like this character though, this is way more cartoon. This is like straight out of Secrets of Nim or
right.
one of those. And he does such a good job of integrating all of those different approaches. Like this is completely, this walrus guy is completely rubbery,
Right.
cartoony. And then you have other people like that orangutan or some of the hippos and rhinos that are like pretty realistic looking, and they all exist within the same world together. And it's just his skill set to me is phenomenal. It's just
Yeah.
absolutely astonishing.
What one note on the writing? At least the first couple chapters are fairly straightforward noir, and
Yeah.
it is interesting how popular noir as a non-genre has remained. Everybody sort of it seems like there's a huge amount of love for it, and people want to do it, but there's always some kind of hook they hang it on, because it's not like science fiction where you're just going to pop over to the noir section of the bookstore, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody has to have some kind of hook to hang it on, if like they feel like they're justifying it in order to work in there. It's an interesting thing because essentially the animal strategy is the hook here.
Yeah, and
uh,
it's actually justified. I have a note on that at the very end. We'll go, since we're talking about the writing, we'll go ahead
yeah,
and flip to that. Like they justify it in the writing with this very, very last kind of caption here. It says, "From that day forward, that has been my world, a jungle where it's survival of the fittest, where people act like animals. I had chosen to walk the dark path in life, and I'm still on it." So you get the sense that, like, yeah, this is probably presented as a world where these people actually are all animals. And I think they even kind of talk about that within it, like
yeah,
you're a this and you're a that.
or your
But it's,
muzzle,
yeah,
yeah,
they acknowledge it. But there's also a sense where maybe this is all just within the character's perception, right? He's like, I'm in a world of people that act like animals. And so he is projecting that kind of stereotype of the animal onto each character that he's seen. So yeah, I think that they realize that they've used that hook and then they tied it to something uh, just thematic in the story, and I thought that was a really smart way to end it.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you said, I mean, the cartooning is just quite amazing. I'm always interested in something like this, like how did it come about? Did he get an assign? The artist, is he already known as an animal artist? Did the pitch come to him with animals in it, or was it just a pitch for the story itself? Did these guys know each other, and he's writing for his skill set? I mean, it's such a peculiar kind of thing. I have to tell you, I knew in my sort of high school circle of people, I knew one particular artist. I won't say her name because I don't know what she's doing these days, but she was the animal girl,
Mm.
and it always seemed to me as if she was in love with a particular Disney character. uh,
That's
and
how it starts.
and she had extremely high level cartooning skills for somebody who was the age that she was. Um, like was probably like a couple years away from working as a professional had she wanted to do so, and that's like one of two people I probably knew in a crowd of hundreds of people I interacted with who had some amount of art ability, and there were two of them that were
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, this person could be a professional. I was not one of those two people, by the way.
You
um,
are now, though.
well, yeah, it took a lot of work as an adult for me, but there were two people in my particular cohort that were like, okay, these two are, and obviously, in fact, one of them actually ended up working as a graphic novelist for Tokyo Pop, but I don't know what she ended up doing, but it was interesting because it all seemed to come out of like some type of like deep seated identification or you know love of or lust of a particular animated Disney character, and she just loved those animals. It was not
Yeah.
like I want to be a, you know, um, every 12-year-old girl goes to the stage where they either want to ride horses or um, be a zoologist or no,
Marine biologist.
marine biologist. Thank you.
Tori
That's it.
wanted to be a marine biologist. I was gonna say that's a bold generalization, but Tori wanted to be a marine biologist. So yeah, I
That's
can't I
that's
can't
the
argue
that's
it.
the one I was looking for. Those are your two choices, and then there's a certain type of person, a certain mentality of person who takes that to the next step and says, okay, well, I can draw animals for a living.
Yeah.
I wonder which one,
I
which one of those this is.
I get the sense that these are I don't know. I haven't researched these creators in particular, how this came about, but I get the sense that they knew each other ahead of time and this is like what they wanted to do. It seems like this guy is leveraging all of his passions in this project.
Okay.
Um, I mean, just based on the art, right? This
Yeah.
doesn't seem like an assignment book. The
Yeah.
the fact that they've been working on it for so long is just here's you talking about like that more emotive use of color
Yeah.
too by switching to the red. But they've been working on this for so long, and there's just such care in the art
Right.
that it's hard for me to imagine that this is just someone phoning in a job. I mean, maybe he's just a real pro, but
That one,
it
that page right there was on the right there. That's one of the ones that really killed me. That you got the composition on the left leads you into the figure on the bottom of the first left panel, and you have to watch his gaze as he goes up to the balloon. And the balloon itself that you see there, the first narrative balloon, actually addresses the height of the building and where the person he's going to meet. It's something about going to the very top. And if you look at that, like sort of, it's like every little aspect of it, graphing the direction that you should read.
and then you have like the flow down as
Mm-hmm.
well and the balloons across here. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. He's a great storyteller. There's just a couple things I tag because like you said, the story I don't find anything that requires a big analysis like
Yeah.
we sometimes do with the story. It is just like pretty straightforward noir. There's one sequence that I found really well, two that I found really amazing from a storytelling standpoint. One is this scene where the guy's being followed and the way that he's threading the elements together so you can like get rid of one figure and follow the other. You've got this guy here and you can see him like back in the crowd being followed, but then they switch perspectives, but you still got the lizard guy and then following over to like the reflection and the thing, then him here, we've established that this guy being confused, like just that whole tracking through the crowd I found to be really put me in the state of the person being followed.
Right.
And I just that could be something where you could really get lost in that. And the other one that I noticed, by the way, while we're here, um they also, this is Batman, right? The detective. Like if you look at his design,
With
it's
the cowl.
Batman's mask, right? With the mouth open and the pointy ears. I thought that was smart. It seems intentional. But the other thing that I found really astonishing in here, and this jumps out like right away, and you can see it carry on throughout the book, is he'll build character with what they own. So if you look at this panel, there is like this sculpture of this cat here, and I'm gonna have to get closer here. There is a newspaper article over here. There is a different little sculpture here. There's like a coffee grinder. There's a baseball trophy, so you get the sense that he was, played baseball as a kid. There's all kinds of cues just on this desk about what kind of person this character is. And then and this is where I say this seems like a real passion project. He's not hacking anything. This desk is redrawn exactly from above with everything in the exact spot that it should be. Like there's not an item missed. This little pencil on this book, this statue looks correct. You get like the coffee on the other side, this little note right here with the 2 volumes of the book. I mean, everything in this is perfect. The angle of the chair relative to the pulled out drawer, the pack of cigarettes, like everything on there has been perfectly realized from another angle. And that type of storytelling to me, where you could just read through this book at the story level and be like, yeah, it's like a nice little noir story, but the artist adds so much to, like, this is somebody's house and it's
Right.
extremely lived in and populated.
Hmm.
And there's, I think, so much under between the lines story information about the characters that I find really, really fascinating. And I don't know that I've ever seen it like this in any other book.
Yeah, that's is quite extraordinary that what you're pointing out there. I have to say, like, as a person who, is not that dedicated in the sense of not being want to do that. I mean, I would go out of my way if I drew that first panel to crop the second one so that you wouldn't see it a second time.
Yeah, you just see the chair, right?
Right.
Like, I can do
E-
the chair again.
Exactly. So that you're suggesting that it's still there off the page. I don't know if I could like stomach it these. Yeah, well, I mean, this totally different situation, but I just think that like there's a certain conservation of effort that you throw in for survival reasons. I don't. It's really something else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think this is just like hired work, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that unless he's got like SketchUp or something like that. But still, to populate a whole room in
Right.
SketchUp just for 2 panels, I mean, maybe it shows up again. We're only looking at the first of the 3 volumes
Yeah.
that are collected in this hardcover. Uh, so maybe that shows up again and he has pre-built environments, but it seems to me like this is someone that just knows perspective really well
Yes.
and can say, okay, this phone is at a 38-degree angle to the corner of the 90
Mhm.
degree angle of the desk, and so I know I've got a map of the room and I can redraw it perfectly.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is when I looked at the art for the first time. Also, panels like this,
Yeah, with the mirror,
yeah.
which is a great one.
And I'm sure he had like a photo reference of a
Sure.
ballet studio there to work from, but it's just a hell of a that kind of Degas
Uh huh.
composition there. When you
Yeah.
start seeing that stuff, you're like, yeah, this is truly masterful work. So I don't know that we need to go into it
No.
any further than that. It's just, this is something that if you have not seen Blacksad, if you've heard about it like me and Sean did and ignored
Right.
it, you should absolutely get it. And let me get the artist's name. I always remember Juan Diaz, but he's not the artist, he's the writer. The Juanjo Guardino. Guardino is a beast, and you're a beast of an artist when Jim Steranko writes
Right.
the introduction on the book.
A quite
Uh,
good introduction, and does a great job of setting this all into getting you in the right frame of mind. I would very much at some point like to revisit Hepcats, which I have not read in a million years, because I think that there is a similar kind of trick, and I think that in terms of populating a serious or ostensibly serious story with animals and sort of seeing how that sits. And Hepcats transitioned into that during the series itself, and I think he actually ended up with some grief because of it.
into
Uh,
using the species as an like emotive or a representation of
well, no, he had already had that as a feature from its earliest incarnations. In terms of the story itself becoming more and more, heavy.
oh,
Uh,
okay. I've read the beginning of Hepcats.
right.
I found like a use that was one I always wanted to read when I was young, and I'd see it in Wizard. And I like that really because he was obviously influenced by Gerhard Heavy.
Yeah.
And I really like that crosshatch heavy style, of course.
Hmm.
But it looked too adult, like I would get in trouble for it if I had it.
Right.
And then I found recently in the last year or so a used version of the first. It actually collected his like college
College
cartoon
strips. Yeah.
strip that he
They,
did, and then
there's
had
a
a
million of
couple
those around.
issues. Had a
Yeah.
had a couple issues of the actual Hepcat. So I haven't read the full thing. I don't know where the story on that goes. So that's definitely on my list. I'll try and look around and get a.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see. It would be an interesting discussion. I really know that I would recommend it for anybody. It's just that like the positioning of it and the use of the anthropomorphism is the similar element, and also sort of the striving for craft within that framework.
Yeah.
It's an interesting read, especially like as a Cerebus adjacent kind of piece. I think especially, and also like the pitfalls of self publishing, because Martin Wagner basically sold a bunch of subscriptions and then ran away. Uh,
Oh,
so
oh, I didn't know that. That was the other reason I never got into Hepcats is I got the sense that it never finished.
oh no, yeah, there's no conclusion, and every time there's been some type of teased conclusion, he's collected some more money and then ran away again. Uh,
Okay,
so
well, don't back Hepcats if you see it on Kickstarter. But what you should back on Kickstarter, transition to some, how do you like that? Uh, is the Abolition of Man, which is up on Kickstarter right now, and we have a hell of a sexy package
it,
available. So, Sean, can you tell us a little bit about what people can get on the Kickstarter?
Yeah, and you probably will have already seen a separate Kickstarter video about this, so I will give you the abbreviated version. But yeah, we are selling The Abolition of Man, which is a quite impressive looking hardback on faux brownish reddish leather with embossed gold and black. It's going to look quite amazing. And it's a collection of Carson's series the Abolition of Man, plus 60 pages of bonus content, which is really, really interesting and
Intense bonus content, not just
very,
sketches and stuff, but
no, it's very, very intense. And, a very interesting project, which I'm sure that you guys have heard us talking about before, but we're offering a deluxe edition that includes several of other bonus things, including a script book that has Carson's original short story from 15 years ago or whatever.
20 years
20.
ago,
Oh my gosh.
2003.
2003. Okay, from the first that inspired the first Hod Tech issue, and then my very short story that inspired the second Hod Tech issue from basically the same year as you're talking about. I'll have to go through my files and figure out exactly when that was, but
It was
uh,
so funny when I found that out that you had based your response to my story on a story you wrote pretty much in the same year. And they worked so well together. It was
yeah.
really astonishing. One of those like that's what I love about this project is the way it came together and all fell together. Just it was like this was the culmination of 20 years of my life that was meant to be. And that
Hmm.
was just another confirmation of that.
Yeah, and it's been interesting to like put together the collection. And at a certain point, we were just like, well, it doesn't really matter if this makes money; you just can't lose money. The point is that we did this amazing thing. And we want to collect it together, and so with that in mind, it was like, okay, so when we do this Kickstarter, like, what do we actually want to see? And apparently, what we want to see is, commemorative book plates that put a cap on the entire thing by showing off like the things that Carson learned from the AI. So
Hmm.
Carson drew a book plate that is specific to the signed edition of the book. We got a bumper sticker slash bookmark. You can use it either way. That says in a very friendly font, "I survived the essential meaninglessness of existence," which I think is sort of how I'm thinking about this book. Because this is a thing that you can hold with you and say, I survived this event.
Yeah.
This is the my totem that represents this year of tumult, and we're not sure where we're going, but this is what happened as a result of that. In the same way that the project itself encapsulates all those things, and also. A portrait of yourself as drawn by the devil himself, Midjourney AI,
Yeah.
uh, placed into the book. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm missing a few things. A T-shirt that says "The Luddites were right." Uh,
And a blacklight poster that says choose to change the sun, which is one of the slogans for the book. So there's a lot of like I just I don't know. You've done a lot of books. I did Strange Death was obviously a huge thing, but I've never been more stoked about the look of all of the
right.
physical products that we're making and like just I don't know, the whole thing is just fun and funny and smart and so check that out while you're at it.
Yeah.
But thanks for following along.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Have a good one, guys.
Centralia is an awesome, gorgeous comic by Rising Dutch star Emil Vanderpeet. This is his first work. It's a really great sci-fi story. There's a world in the future where the sun has gotten so hot that people can't be on the ground, so they have to run around. There's a lot of conceits that go with that. You know, what is the world that looks like? And I think you can see by the art that Sean's description of this book as like a Moebius for young adults, a YA Moebius, is a really great description of this really gorgeous and like wild, wacky, fun book.